Okay, so we all pretty much know the backstory on this, right? Peter Daou quit the Cornel West campaign for quote-unquote health reasons. He then announced later that day that the health reasons were that he was having PTSD from his childhood in war-torn Beirut, and the news was getting to him, and so he needed to take a mental health
No,
break.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know
I
that?
had no. I didn't know that was. I didn't know the reason of the sickness that came out. So
Okay,
could you say that again? Say so. Tell me.
No,
What
that's fine. Yeah. So the reason, so his health reasons that he cited were mental health reasons.
He had a goiter.
Yeah, he had a goiter. It was mental health reasons. So basically, he was citing PTSD because he grew up as a child of war, and so he said that the news was really getting to him, and so he had to withdraw from the campaign for those reasons. And I tweeted out separately. He didn't respond to this one. I said, look, I don't want to be an asshole. Like, I'm not going to minimize that, obviously. I take that very seriously. Mental health is a real thing. But, if this is a revolutionary campaign, as it's supposed to be, and you're leading it, doesn't that mean you fight through trauma, fight through hardship? Like, the whole point is we have to fight in the face of horror, not retreat to do self-care in the face of horror. Like, if you're retreating because this is too tough on you, then you probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, which was what all of us were saying, right? So that was that. Okay, so here's the thing, though. He steps back for self-care, right, because he has PTSD and he needs a mental health break. Within hours of resigning for mental health reasons, he was on Twitter doing what he's done always, which is trolling and pissing people off and snapping back at critics and starting fights. Pardon me. And so, we all gave our takes on, him leaving the campaign. Russ and I gave ours. I'm sure, Hardlands, RBN did yours.
Oh, we did.
So JB gave his on his channel, Exit Stage Right? Now, Peter Daou chooses to quote tweet that link and writes, curious, does my rejection of money from Nazi collector billionaires make my exit stage right or stage left?
Wow.
And what about my taking the campaign from net negative cash and 4% in the polls to 100K cash on hand and 9% in the polls? What nefarious motives are those, LOL? All right, so then I just replied, and I really just did this. I figured I would stick up for JB a bit. I said...
And not to step on the server, but, I mean, that's a pretty vicious attack on Cornel there.
Right, he's saying Cornel wanted to take Nazi money,
right.
You know what I mean?
What?
And couldn't keep his finances straight, right? So, look, I mean, I just chimed in. I figured I would stick up for JB a little bit because I just said, look, I thought you quit because you needed time to pray, because that's what he said. I need time to pray. I thought you quit because you needed time to pray, not to bitch at left-wing commentators who rightly predicted that Cornel's campaign would nosedive as soon as you got involved. Like, if you're quitting for mental health reasons, I respect that. I think it's indicative of the fact that you should have never been given the job in the first place, which is what we all said in the first place. But, like, whatever. If you're going to quit for mental health reasons, then why are you online hours later picking fights with people? Like, if you need a mental health break, this doesn't seem like much of a mental health break.
Right.
So that was my point there. Now, Jimmy retweeted that. And that's how he got involved in this. So, well, actually, that's not exactly how he got involved in this. I'm sorry. I went a little bit out of order. First, Peter took what he perceived as my bait, I guess. I guess I baited him into a beef. Your left wing in the sense, so this is Peter quote tweeting me. Your left wing in the sense of denying that a prominent black scholar makes his own decisions about his campaign while minimizing my PTSD. Fact, his campaign was in debt when I joined and had $100,000 cash when I left, and his highest poll numbers were under my watch, so get the fuck out. So then I snapped back because he implied that I was denying a black man agency, when of course I was not. And so I just said, so you're saying he needed a white man to bring him out of debt? How racist is that? Because he's saying, yeah, he was in debt until
that's
I
gonna
showed
trigger
up.
him. That's gonna trigger him.
Well, then,
I
well,
don't
I
even,
said,
that's gonna trigger him if you said that.
well, I did say that, and I made a mention of the fact that I didn't mean it, right? But my whole point of making that point was to show him how easy it is to do what he does, which is falsely accuse people of racism when they get to his left. That's what he did as the HRC henchman of 2016, right? All the Bernie bros were racists and sexist, right? So I said, so you're saying he needed a white man to bring him out of debt? How racist is that? See how easy it is to make cheap identity politics barbs, whether they're true or not. Oh, wait, of course you do. That's your bread and butter, right? So Jimmy retweeted
Yeah, that's
both of them.
triggering. Yeah, that's triggering, right?
Yeah, I guess that
that's
pissed him
gonna
off a
trigger
little
him.
bit.
Yeah.
So Jimmy retweeted both of those, and then forgive me if I get a little out of order here, because this is where the Twitter machine gets a
This
little
is where it
confusing.
kind of gets crazy. Yeah.
Hang
It's a
on,
little
at the
confusing.
top, what did he say?
Well, no, this is before that. So,
okay, I got you.
So Jimmy,
Wait, can you pause here
Sure,
because
of course.
it feels like he went overboard with the JB tweet, like JB just announcing. It
He
feels
wrongly
like
attacked JB.
He took, based on his tweet response, it feels like he took the word stage right to mean he was right wing, like
Right.
exit stage right. It feels like that's how he took it, because his response was, well, if I did this, is it stage left or stage right? Meaning, that's what it feels like how he took it. Maybe I'm wrong, but go ahead, continue.
Look, he could spin this however he wants. He could talk about polling. He could talk about funding. The bottom line is, when Peter Daou entered, Cornel had ballot access in 17 states and a campaign infrastructure at his disposal. When Peter Daou leaves, he has ballot access in 0 states with nothing to show for his campaign. So that's the legacy of Peter Daou as it pertains to the Cornel West campaign. You could talk about cash on hand. You could talk about polling. And by the way, he doesn't have 9% polling anymore. The 9% polling was when Peter left. Now that Peter's left and he's got no campaign and no Green Party behind him, he's back down in, 2 or 3 points. But anyway, Jimmy, saw that. He screenshotted that. He tweeted this out. Before you joined Cornel West campaign, he had ballot access in 18 states. After you, he has ballot access in 0 states. That was your true mission, and everyone sees it. Now tell Hillary and the DNC hello from all of us, infiltrator. Now, I guess Peter responded to him. This is where I kind of lost track of things, but I just, I retweeted Jimmy since he retweeted me, so I figure I should return the favor. So, and it's a good thing I did, because now these are all stored in my backlog here. Fact, Dr. West made his own decisions, from leaving the Green Party to taking Harlan Crow's donation against my advice. Unlike you, I respect that a prominent black intellectual is capable of calling his own shots, for better or worse. Yeah. His campaign was in debt and disarray when I joined. I left it with an effective structure and $100,000. Go ask him and his team. You and others who are too cowardly to admit you want to tear him down snipe at me instead for the bank shot against him. It's pathetic, Jimmy. All right, so now Jimmy responds here. Fact, you take all the credit for anything good that happened on Cornel West's campaign and then blame a black man for all the obvious sabotage and screw-ups that have tanked his campaign. Yes, that's a good point. Very racist behavior for a nonstop virtue-signaling ally, ain't it? Yes, I think that's a good point. You're an infiltrator, has such a bad case of PTSD that you quit his campaign after tanking it and immediately went back to warring with and attacking your good-faith critics. Yeah, that's exactly. He didn't take a mental health, dude, if you're going to take a mental health break, take a mental health break. Don't say you're taking a mental health break and then immediately, not even a day's rest, immediately start going after people who criticize you.
Come on, guys. This is obviously not a mental health break, and I get it when we say we want to give people the benefit of the doubt and we want to take mental health, but if nobody else wants to say it, we can clearly call out when people are using it. And this guy's using it.
He needs a new therapist, that's for sure.
Right. I don't have any sort of sympathy for this supposed PTSD for this guy. I don't have any sympathy for that. Just in the same way, I don't have, you have a PTSD for all the smearing you did of the Bernie Sanders people from 2016. You get what I'm
Well,
saying? Like, we're supposed
no,
to
I
feel sorry
get you.
for you. This guy is absolutely using mental health as a crutch to get out, just like what he does. This is all he understands what to do. Use a otherwise real issue to shield and cover for me so that people don't attack me for what I'm doing. Instead of let me use this shield of mental health. It was the same thing he used with Marianne Williamson. Mental health, my mom. Like, get
His mom is
out
in
of
hospice
here.
or something like that.
I'm so surprised that it was mental health. I thought it was some other medical health, because mental health, after having a campaign for 2 weeks, for three weeks,
About a month and a half, he was part of the campaign.
yeah,
for
like
Dr.
I
Cornel
don't understand.
Like,
a
what
month
you
and
do-
a
Well,
half
he's
when-
claiming that he's triggered by the news out of Israel-Palestine,
yes,
and I made this
right.
point in
The
our
fuck
segment.
outta
We all
here.
are. Well, look, we
Yeah.
all are upset by this. Like,
Yeah, he's not
look,
alone in this.
He's not alone in this. I'm a parent. I have 2 4-year-old kids. Every time I see a video of a kid maimed or injured or killed, or a kid who just lost his mother or his father, I think every single time without fail, what if that were my kid? Or what if that were me? Or what if that were my wife? You know, it's very triggering. It's very upsetting. You know, that doesn't mean I stopped doing the show. You know, that doesn't mean we stopped doing what we're
Right.
doing. You know, so you know, but look, whether or not that, like, even giving him the benefit of every doubt, and I understand, CJ, you don't want to, and that's fine, but I'm saying even giving him the benefit
If
of
you
every
do,
doubt,
yeah.
he's clearly not acting in a way that suggests he's caring for his mental health. And this is what Jimmy says. Is that what your doctor recommended to help treat your horrible case of PTSD, to come on and start warring with people? Fact, you're an obvious garbage person who lies and twists reality whenever it suits your agenda. And I'm glad you engaged me, so now more people can get to see how transparent a grifting liar you are. Tell Hillary, DC, and the DNC hi from all of us.
Yes,
And then he said
Twitter,
something else.
That famous balm for the soul, that famous refuge for those suffering mental health crises.
Well, Peter said something else to him, and I don't have this here in my thing. I don't, for some reason, this is not in my
Gentlemen,
queue. Oh, no, yes. Nope, sorry. This is it right here.
Okay, go ahead.
This is it. Why don't you just admit you wanted a job? So this is to Jimmy. Why don't you just admit you wanted a job as an advisor to West and you didn't get it? Instead of using me as a bank shot to lash out at him, have the guts to go after him directly. Now, this strikes me as absolutely absurd.
What?
I know that Jimmy reached out and offered his advice, offered, to, help with PR and things like that, or, interview strategy and things like that. I doubt very, very much that Jimmy Dore wanted a job on the campaign.
Yeah.
Because if he took a job,
when would he do it?
when would he do it between the comedy shows and his show? And also, I'm not 100% sure of, but I assume that if you take a paid position on a presidential campaign, that presents a conflict of interest with your show as a political commentator. And
Yes.
it's not for me to speculate how much money's he's making off his YouTube show, but I can say pretty safely it's got to be a hell of a lot more than the Green Party could afford to pay him for consultant work. So why the hell would he be angling for a paid position at the Cornel West campaign and be so enraged that he didn't get one? That's not what happened at all. That's absurd. That's ludicrous.
So what is this about the Vanguard guys?
That I don't
Oh
know.
yeah,
That
yeah. I
One
can
other
bring up
thing is
that.
If
Go
I
ahead.
could bring up,
Go
if
ahead.
I could bring up something here, gentlemen, how does it feel to once again be proven correct on the fact that Peter Daou was not only what we were saying that he would be, that he would somehow dismantle the Dr. Cornel West campaign, but more importantly, leave it rudderless and stuck in the water, stuck in the mud, where I can't see how Cornel West is going to keep on pushing forward after the damage that Daou did. He contributed nothing. What? That the campaign was in financial problems, and now what? They got 100K plus, and the 9% that's no longer 9%. Peter Daou was everything that we said he would be, and now he's rage attacking anyone that was critical of him, calling us ops and operatives and infiltrators. He's projecting because that's what he is. And dare I say it, we could go to extra mile and say Peter Daou probably was put in that position and wormed his way in. And what does it say about Jill Stein and Dr. West about reading a character?
Yes.
And,
Well, that's the thing.
And then
Yeah.
one other thing here too.
Go ahead.
Look, not to bring up this interview, but look, Jimmy Dore when he was interviewing Dr. Cornel West, and Jimmy just says, hey, who's advising you? Who is advising you? And Dr. West, are you able to critically read people? I know you try and see the best in people, and that's an admirable trait, but that's also how you get backstabbed 1,000 times.
Look, the bottom line, whatever he wants to talk about, poll numbers, fundraising, all this, the bottom line is, given the state of things and given the time that Cornel entered the race, his horse in this race was the Green Party. Without the Green Party, he had no horse. Without no horse, you can't run the race. The Green Party was the horse. Now, if they were giving you problems, it then falls upon you to do what Bernie tried to do in the Democratic Party in 2016, which is flood the Green Party with your people and overcome whatever apparatus is working against you or stifling you, right?
That could have been done.
It could have been done because Cornel's way more popular than anyone at the Green Party. It's not like when Bernie was doing it in 2016, he was going up against Hillary Clinton, right? He's going up against the most prominent and well-connected member of that party. Who's the most prominent, well-connected member of the Greens? What, Jill Stein? And she was on his team. She was advising him. So she wasn't an obstacle. Howie Hawkins? You're telling me you can't overcome Howie Hawkins or Davi, whoever the fuck that guy is, right? I mean, come on. If your chance was to use the infrastructure and ballot access of the Green Party to launch a challenge to the duopoly, not that you were going to beat them, but the Green Party had the infrastructure in place and the ballot access in place where that was your chance to make it happen. And Peter Daou can say whatever the fuck he wants about fundraising, about what was the other thing that he said that he was so happy about?
Fundraising,
polling, 9%, yeah,
right, polling,
9%.
Fundraising, polling. The bottom line is, the connection to the Green Party fell apart on his watch. Therefore, the campaign crumbled on his watch. That's it. It's as simple as that. Without the Green Party, you have no campaign. That fell apart. Maybe it wasn't Peter Dow's fault, but it doesn't look good that
it doesn't look good.
6 weeks after you join, his entire apparatus just crumbles.
One other thing here, too. In not only one, but 3 different interviews, Brianna Joy Gray, Sabby Sabs, and Tim Black, we saw Peter Daou say how tough it is to be a campaign manager and have the audacity to say, look, I know how to run it better. And, if you really think it's an easy job, there's very few people like me. Peter, once again, you petered out. So you said all that stuff and not in 1, but 3 interviews trying to hype yourself up as this person. Look, I'm waiting and I'm dreading for this for all of us to cover this when Dr. West drops out of the race and says we got to support Biden, whoever the Democrat nominee is going to be. I could just see it happening, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see it happen because Dr. West said he's going to go through all the way to the end. But how are you going to make it to the end?
No, he's
when
not.
your campaign is zero.
Well, all the end, what does that mean? He needs now 332,000 combined signatures to get ballot access in California and Texas, which are the 2 most populous states in
he ain't gonna do it.
Country. The Greens already had ballot access in both of those places. So by losing the Green Party ballot line, he set himself back 332,000 signatures, and that's the technical amount you need. In reality, he needs more like 500,000 because of all the signatures.
Yeah.
That
He's going to need way more than that.
Right.
To go
Wait,
higher.
Everybody's time.
Yeah,
How are you getting that? I mean, how are you even getting it? Just those. That's just for 2 states. How are you even getting 500,000 signatures?
He's not going to get in Illinois. I mean, my
that's
state
why-
is draconian towards third parties and independents. And I was saying that on my show, like, how are you going to do it? Illinois, if you dot your I's wrong, cross your T's wrong, your name is off the roster. I've interviewed so many Illinois libertarians and Greens and independents who try to get on the ballot.
Oh, and this is another thing I forgot to bring up, but this was an interesting point because the person I talked to who knew a little bit more, who knew actually quite a bit more about how this went down, they were telling me, and this is going to be an obstacle for RFK also, that anybody who votes in the state of Texas, if you vote, so in the state of Texas, you need 113,000 signatures as an independent to qualify for access. You need to get those 113,000 signatures from independent voters, meaning voters who did not vote in the Democratic or Republican primary. So if you vote in the Democratic or Republican primary, you are not eligible to sign an independent candidate's ballot access petition. That's thrown out. come on. I mean, at that point,
Yeah,
you're
it
not.
makes
It's
it
not happening.
it's
That makes it
it's
way harder because the
unserious.
people who are most inclined to sign a petition are people who are engaged in the
Right.
process. They're going to be likely primary voters. So these are the obstacles they throw in your way, which is why you need an existing ballot line so that you don't have to do all that shit. There's no way this is happening.
Well,
Go ahead, Russell.
we had a guy call
Oh, I'm
in
sorry.
from
Go
the
ahead,
Green. We had a guy call in from the Green Party last night, actually, on our show. And, as a Green Party member, I guess he was holding out some hope. He was saying, yeah, it would be messy, but Cornel could come back. And I told him, I mean, we both told, what our theory of the case is Cornel thought about who he was going to piss off if he actually ran a real campaign, and he decided to run a fake one. I keep comparing it to the line in Glengarry Glen Ross when he says, they just like to talk to salesmen. He just likes to talk to podcasters. He wants to keep going around and talking to podcasters. Everything that he has done demonstrates somebody who doesn't actually want this campaign to go anywhere. He wants to say he's running for president. He does not actually want to run for president. He doesn't want to be Nadert. He doesn't want to be persona non grata around the CNN studios. When you look at it through that lens, everything he's done makes total sense.
It makes total sense. And let me read this from a couple of tweets here. Where Peter Daou says the ops and infiltrators are the ones who use me for clicks to try to take down Cornel West. You know who you are. Heartland's Media, aka Kit, responds this way. No, or let me let you read it because you'll read it with the same
Sure
emotion
thing.
and gusto. Go ahead.
Actually, I wish I put a little bit more nose in it. No, you are projecting. What exactly have you done to secure ballot access or anything more than the 1.5 months you were with the West campaign? Stop projecting, and the criticism against you is valid. That's how you should.
And you had another banger right here.
Yeah,
I'll
there
read
you go.
Peter's and then you read yours. Peter says, actually, this is the main one he said, and I'll just kind of read the first sentence. You're left wing in the sense of denying that a prominent black scholar makes his own decisions about his campaign while minimizing my PTSD. And what say you, Kit? What did you have to say about that? Go ahead.
Curious. I thought Daou needed to rest, yet throughout the time he left the West campaign, he has been on a Twitter storm against those who have criticized him. People have a right to question what you did, and Due Dissidence has a right to question you. Just like JB, just like RBN, just like Jimmy Dore, just like everyone else. Look, folks, stick a fork in the West campaign. It's over. Okay? Peter Daou effectively ended it, and West's inability to actually lead and read people, it's wasted all of our time, and I'm actually enraged at the fact of just how pathetic and mediocre the West campaign has ended. I can't see them pulling this out. But hey, look, it's the Vanguard. What do they got to say?
Yeah, here goes the Vanguard chiming in here. So this is the tweet that they're quote tweeting. So effing sick of the clowns and cowards who use me for clicks to attack Cornel West. They didn't have the courage to admit they didn't want to tear him down. And I don't need to read the rest of it, but this is what the Vanguard says. The third party movement in America has never been in a more embarrassing place than it is right now. Let's be honest. Just an endless circular firing squad of terminally online losers with no solidarity, let alone an actual strategy to accomplish literally everything. That comment from the Vanguard feels like it has nothing to do with policy. It feels all to do with emotion about them being the sort of the court jesters of the left. I mean, that's who they are. Everybody kind of makes fun of the Vanguard, and it feels like that's a tweet wrapped in emotion and not wrapped in like factual or chronological historical facts. So, but anybody else want to chime in before we close this with the Vanguard? And I know all of you hadn't had a chance to see it, but what do you think the point they're making here? Anyone who wants to take
yeah,
it, the Vanguard.
here's their point. Look, they're the kind of people who are dismissing a third party or independent movement, all the while they're still hopping onto the Democratic Party. Like, see, you're wasting your time with third parties, so still vote Democrat and support Marianne Williamson's glorified book tour. That's what they're trying to say here. Okay, and that's about it.
Okay. We pride ourselves on being, honest brokers, and as much as we've had beefs with the Vanguard, we also owe a lot to Beavis and Butthead over there. Their interview with their infamous attack on Aaron Mate launched our channel. So we have a debt of gratitude to those boys. But look, they're not wrong. I mean, it's not even clear to me that they're really defending Daou so much as they're making a general observation. So I'm not going to go after them just, because we've had beefs in the past. Like, yeah, they're right. Like, I don't disagree with anything that they're saying there. It's fucking true. We've said it on our show. Not specifically with that framing, but if you look at what this first post-Bernie election cycle is looking like, what a fucking clown show. Oh my God, what a cast of characters. You got the Topanga Canyon hippie over there on the book tour. You got Mr. Yes, I believe that AIDS is a virus, but let me explain to you for 2 chapters why it's a made up illness. RFK over there. And then you got the jazz man here who's played a melody line right out of Ballot access there. He's jammed his way right into irrelevance.
Libertarians can't get anybody.
Is that what's going on with them?
Well, they apparently, what's the guy's name? The guy, he's been on Pasta Show, Dave Smith. He was going to do it, and then he chickened out. And so they were putting all their eggs in that basket, and then he decided he didn't want to do it because he didn't want people to ruin his life, because that's what will happen. They'll ruin your life if you run a serious third-party campaign, just like they tried to do with Cornel with the child support and the taxes and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So apparently he's not running. So now they don't have any. Like they're scrambling now. So like it's
right.
Amazing.
And you look at the Greens, and I we talked a little bit about it with the guy who called in about this. Somebody who was like a ranking person in the Green Party tweeted out that Cornel left the Greens the day after they told him he was going to have to fix his position on transgender athletes, and they wanted to have a meeting with him. What a fucking clown show that is in and of itself. Like like what they're saying, that there are just these ridiculous internecine divisions and just aimless fighting for no reason. I mean, again, it's not clear to me they're saying that in defense of Daou. It just seems like an overall commentary on on this whole line of conversation. And hey, man, I mean, it can't just go after him to go after him. I mean, they're not wrong.
I think both of you are clarifying sort of what I said, and because both can be true, and that is, it feels like the words, and let me clarify, it feels like the words that they're saying is true, but what they're meaning behind the words is not what we're talking about. And I think that's a better way of saying it, because what they're saying is true. The third party movement is in disarray. I wouldn't call it embarrassing, but I would call it a disarray. Now, this is the part, the endless circling, firing squad of online, like that's the part where I feel like it strays away from an actual critique of what's happening with the third party movement, and that's just them being upset, because he goes on and says, let alone an actual strategy to accomplish literally anything, because that part would absolutely be incorrect, because there's strategies that we talk about all the time when it comes to this particular area. But the third party movement, in my opinion, is in disarray because of people like the Vanguard. It's not because of people like us, for example. It's for people like the Vanguard who straddled the line between third party and Democratic Party. It's not because of people who are us, who are totally in on third parties and totally out of the Democratic Party. But go ahead, somebody
Well,
else.
Can I
that's-
add something here too, like in
Sure,
regards
sure,
to third
sure,
parties,
sure.
because we got the infrastructure too, like the people who run third parties. You know, the Greens in Illinois and Indiana, for example, have been so pathetic, and especially covering them way early on, 2017, 2018, 2019, at the aftermath of 2016. There was an opportunity for them to gain ground, and while I covered those events, you know, they went from these large event areas, and the events kept on getting smaller, less people were showing up. So there's also the infrastructure part too.
Which party is this? Green Party?
Yeah, the Illinois Green Party, Indiana Green Party, the Illinois Green Party. It's just they have been mediocre and subpar at best.
Okay, so one point I will make about the Vanguard as a source, they do tend to say things like this while at the same time playing those games and swimming in those waters themselves. You know, if you saw their interview with friend of show Tim Black, you know, there was
I did not.
there was it was interesting because there was a lot of you know, basically attacking people for doing exactly what they do, which is to attack people, right? So, I mean, to talk about people being online and attacking each other when that's basically your business model. There is that. But, you know, from the mouths of babes, you know, the statement itself is not untrue.
Well, I also think, you know, one of the things that attracts people to third parties is that they are nonconformists, but obviously conformity can be an asset when it comes to organizing political movements and political structures, right? You need a certain amount of conformity because you need a certain amount of cooperation. And I think, you know, people who are drawn to third parties sort of by definition reject that way of thinking, which makes them just kind of structurally difficult to organize. But that's what's important about a big moment like this, where there's a cause that is so obvious and so dire that it just brings a lot of people out into the streets and organizing and talking to each other. And, you know, these provide opportunities to sort of transcend whatever differences we might have. In terms of this election cycle, it looks like it's too late, which is unfortunate. RFK's polling is very strong. He raised $11 million, which is a huge haul. Now, obviously, I'm not going to come up here and say a kind word about a guy who is to the right of Donald Trump on genocide, okay? But I will just say, if there is a candidate in this race at this point that can, you know, throw a wrench into the two-party system, it's him. Now, once again, I want to be 100% clear. That is in no way, shape, or form an endorsement or even a suggestion that people should view his candidacy well, because this issue obviously has presented itself as a disqualifier. But I'm just telling you like it is. His polling is at 20%. He's got a lot of cash on hand. He's got an inner circle of people who could probably put together a team very quickly if he plays his cards right. That could be the only game in town in terms of a meaningful third-party effort this cycle. And it's only meaningful insofar as it causes chaos within the system. It's not meaningful in terms of anything that we could support. Obviously, being to the right of Donald Trump on genocide, that's a non-starter. And it's a shame that that's where we're at, because there was an opportunity for a real substantive third-party candidate to do well this time, as is indicated not just in RFK's polling, but in fucking Cornel's polling. I mean, Cornel,
he was doing well.
He's still. I mean, his national polls are down, but a new poll came out of Georgia. He's at 5%. In Georgia, in a swing state where you got a lot of people very anxious about, not voting blue because it's a razor thin margin. So his polls are still pretty good. Unfortunately, he's not going to be on any ballots.